So in this video, let's consider it an exercise. We're not being serious. We're flirting with reality. We're playing around with ideas, something that might get the right brain a little bit more active because we're not taking it too seriously. But let's consider the possibility that thoughts are not what they appear to be. In fact, they may not be at all. In fact, they may be an illusion, a mirage that just appears to be so real, and the thing that appears to be real enough to keep us up at night. Because that's one of the comments I get. It's a great question. And people say, well, the last few videos you've done, you keep saying thoughts are illusions, but how do they have causal powers if they're illusions? And that's what I want to play with. First, let's talk about some evidence from some data, and then we'll talk about one sort of cosmic possibility. So as far as the data goes, it's true. Not everyone has the voice in the head. No, not everyone experiences this. And it seems to be a minority, but the fascinating thing about these individuals is they're no different than the rest of us that have the voice in the head going continuously. And so that tells us that it's not doing anything functionally. It's not like, well, those people who have the voice in the head, they're the organized ones who are succeeding in society, and the people without it don't seem to be able to get by. Another pointer to the illusion is the case of Gary Weber. And he was someone who practiced meditation for years and years, and then suddenly the voice in the head stopped. But he was in a very interesting situation where he was running a multi-million-dollar business, or maybe a couple of them, and had this kind of existential sensation like, well, what's going to happen now without the voice in the head? And surprisingly, nothing. He was absolutely equally effective at running these big businesses without a voice in the head. So that's very telling. This thing that's going on that keeps us up at night, that makes us worry about the future and ruminate about the past, it's really not necessary. And it's demonstrated with the data. It's just not needed. And so you say, well, why is it there? And then we ponder a little bit and we say, well, maybe it's one of those illusions that consciousness is flirting with itself. I have a video, it's kind of old now, but it was consciousness, like the ultimate con artist. And the idea is that consciousness plays by being everything that it's not. And so consciousness is allowing this illusion to happen because it's actually entertaining to be what it's not. And then it's a tough one to take that. But, let's pull an unlikely piece of scripture out for this one. It's one that Alan Watts quoted quite often, and that is Isaiah 45:7, that I make peace, I make war, I make light, I make the darkness, I, the Lord, make all of these. That's a great non-dualist quote, and we could update that or modernize it a little bit and say, well, what if this is consciousness? Consciousness makes the light. Consciousness makes the darkness. Consciousness makes peace. But consciousness also plays as being the voice in the head, everything that it's not. And that creates a sense that all of the suffering from the voice in the head is an illusion. And it's a difficult one to kind of look in the mirror and say, wow, how could I be the source of the suffering? But that's the trip of non-dualism. And so if we go into it terribly seriously and say, well, I'm causing my own problems, the ego is going to jump in and say, well, that couldn't absolutely be true because I'm just innocent, and I certainly wouldn't want to be awakened, from a peaceful sleep with some thought that this or that's going to happen. So just consider it as kind of a playful possibility. I mean, the fact that there are people out there that don't have a voice in the head and get along fine, isn't it possible that voice, particularly when you use that spotlight of consciousness to really see if that voice in the head is even there, you may have the sensation that it was never there in the first place.